Comics and Crypto.
Yeah!
Hey,
Oh!
what's going on, everyone? We got our good friend Carl from 24/7 Comics joining us today.
Long overdue, fellas. Long overdue.
Long overdue. We've been collaborating a lot on Twitter Spaces. We've been meeting up in person at cons, but finally we get the great Carl Choi on Comics and Crypto. We're so stoked to have you here, man.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Sean. You know, we spent a lot of time speaking on Spaces, and we had a really good run. I think the con season kind of slowed us down.
It did, yeah. We definitely got to pick it back up.
Yeah, we got to pick it back up. But our weekly Comics Corner has been a blast and something I look forward to every week. And now we can do this in person. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, so speaking of cons, how was Comic-Con for you a couple weeks ago?
Awesome. You know, you guys know this already, but you know, just been going back to cons since 2017, but more professionally in my kind of immersive production side, building all those like marketing events. Very different because I think we would spend a lot of time during the day building outside, and then the evenings would be running around the artist alley just saying hi to everybody. And this time we literally had a chance to like booth, sit there, like have our artists be present, and then also you know, just share the love of our comic. And I think that experience, I'm addicted now. I want to go to like every con and do that. So we're already planning to go to Baltimore Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con.
Nice.
Oh,
beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. What is? Have you been to Baltimore before? Do you know what that one's like?
It'll be my first time. This is about 15,000 folks go. It's been going for about 20 years. And apparently it's very comic book focused. So we feel like that's a good place for us to engage readers. So I think it'll be a fun one.
Nice. All right, we'll have to look into that one, but we'll definitely be in New York for sure.
Cool. Excited. Yeah, New York is my favorite con of all time.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and they give like artists, the artist alley is treated properly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It felt it was really cool to go there last year and experience that, and it felt like it was off the path a little bit, but in a good way.
But then also like the aisles were way bigger. Like artists had like bigger booths. Like at San Diego Comic-Con, I feel like everybody was so crammed into one little space there, and it was so hard. Yeah. I like the way they do it in New York.
Yeah, I completely agree. How about you guys? How was the experience for you guys? I mean, this time I saw you guys running around like madmen.
At San Diego?
Yeah, San Diego was crazy.
Yeah, it was such a fun experience. We got to talk to a lot of people we've been talking to for the past year. Finally meet them in person, and just continue building awesome relationships. It's been it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun this year.
Yeah. Really great parties as always.
I underestimated the recovery time though.
Yeah.
I need at least.
I had a few friends who went with us that caught COVID, but I feel like it's such a
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'm just not surprised. But what was really cool, speaking of our world, we kind of straddle between Web3 and traditional space, and there was a good amount of Web3 projects there. I mean, seeing Pudgy Penguins there, seeing 24, seeing
Cool Cats.
Cool Cats were like right next door to us. So it was really fun just to see their presence. Did you guys get a chance to stop by the booth as well?
Yeah. Talk to both of those guys. Yeah, really, really cool. And we discussed this a couple times on the podcast, but like really cool how you didn't know that it was an NFT project when you went up to their booth. They really just focused on the physical products that they were selling. Pudgy Penguins. Like a couple times, like around the convention, I would see like little kids wearing Pudgy Penguin backpacks. And I turned to Sean and I was like, "There's no way that kid knows what Pudgy Penguin is. Like, there's no way that they know what the NFT project is." But like, it's a cute penguin thing, and kids like that. So really cool to see that they were kind of putting that at the forefront, and I think that was definitely smart for them in terms of building their brand and building notoriety. Because I think if people knew that those were NFT projects, they probably would have been a little less likely to engage with the booths. Yeah,
what's been really cool too is seeing Pudgy Penguins and Only4s, seeing their presence in Web3, get recognized recently.
Yeah,
and a lot of it has to do with what they're doing in the Web2 and traditional space. And I feel like that's kind of what it's going to take. I don't know if people are still into, all the hype and speculation like they used to be. I think there's still a lot of that, but I don't think that's what leads the conversations anymore. I think what leads the conversation is if you're able to build outside of it. So hopefully I think we're going the right direction, because I think for us, we're treating this Comic-Con audience very differently. We started a newsletter this week.
Nice.
And the engagement has been great, because we're noticing that they're seeing us as more of a traditional comic company. But for us, you could log into our site and double click into your wallet And I think if people want to look for it and look for what we're doing in Web3, they'll find it. But I definitely want to take this San Diego Comic opportunity to really introduce ourselves as a true publisher.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. All right, so I want to get into all of that stuff, and we'll get deep into 24/7. But before that, we always like to ask a fun question, and I already know the answer to it because we talk all the time. But are you a collector? I know the answer is yes.
Heck yes.
What is it that you collect? What is it that you collect?
Yeah, I wish I was in my room. I was telling Sean, like I'm helping out with the in-laws right now, so I'm in a different house. But typically, I have all my stuff behind me, and that would answer your question, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, I'm a huge comic art collector. So I started back up in 2017. So my journey is I moved to America when I was 8 years old. I didn't know the language. I didn't know the culture. Biggest loner. I'm that kid who's at lunch sitting by myself eating my Chinese food that my parents packed for me, and I didn't have any friends. And so it was until my cousin brought me my first Wolverine comic, and from then on, I started hitting the comic book shop every week, and I would literally save my lunch money and buy comics every week. And that's where I found my community. I got my first job, basically working for credit, packing books. And then I was really deep into it until college, where I discovered parties and girls, and so like everyone take a break. And so I moved back, like in my 30s, where I started collecting again, and professionally started working for a lot of movie studios, and it gave me a reason to start buying. But the way I got in was through comic art. I went to go visit Bernard Chang at his booth at New York Comic Con 2017. And I was like, what are you doing here? What's your latest comic? And he's, my latest comic is Nightwing. Check out my original art here. And I was like, oh, your original art? And he's like, yeah, they're for sale. And then he gave me a couple pieces for a good deal. And I was like, wait, what? You can buy this art? And I started looking at it. And I looked across the aisle. I was like, that's Ron Lim. Ran over Ron Lim. Hey, what are you up to? I have comic art too. And it was right before Infinity Gauntlet came out. And he had the last of his Infinity Gauntlet pages. Wow. And so I started flipping through. I was like, oh my God, this is freaking awesome. And there was basically one DPS, and at this point I was a newbie. So I had bought like $100, $200 pages from Bernard. That was, Nightwing pages. They're really nice. But then when I got to the Infinity Gauntlet page, there's one where Gamora got the Infinity Gauntlet. She's flying through and all the gods were around her. Yeah. That splash was beautiful. But then Ron wanted like $2,500 for it. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready for that yet. That's a little low. Passed on it, left the convention. Next day, woke up, was like, I gotta go get that page. I went to go get it, it was gone. Right?
Oh, no.
And literally a week later, it shows up on Heritage Auction, and it's sold for like $7,000. And so
damn, that's too quick. You look that quick.
That happened. The plug bit me, and I'm like, oh my God, like comic art's where it's at. And so I've been back in it. So I do buy comics now when I buy the comic art, and there's kind of the comic that as a companion. But yeah, and then digital collectibles, NFTs really sucked me in last year when Azuki minted. A good friend of mine, Arnold, who is the creative director, invited me on the mint list. I had no idea what the heck a mint list was at the time, and minted. And I think the moment of how even 24/7 became a Web3 project was because when I saw what they did with anime, I said, oh, well, I did that with freaking comics as well. So yeah, that's
awesome. Going back to original cover art, did you go stop by the Hakes booth, Hakes Auctions?
I didn't.
They're selling an original Star Wars from Star Wars 1, an original cover. Well, so it wasn't a cover art, but it was original artwork from the comic.
Yeah, from one of the pages. It was like page 9 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that thing's probably going to sell close to $50,000 to $100,000 probably. Yeah. I'm not sure where it's at right now, but man,
I think the estimate they had was like 1 to 200. I think
was it 1 to 200
on the booth? Yeah,
apparently.
You go to Heritage, you see all kinds of crazy sales. I mean, like
crazy, yeah.
Over pandemic, the prices like went off the roof. Like I mean, they had like Frank Miller's Dark Knight #1 cover. It's like a painted cover. I
remember that. That. That was crazy.
Million. And then Spider-Man's first costume appearance, the Secret Wars, each sold for 3.2, 3.
Yeah, Secret Wars 8. Yeah,
crazy,
insane.
Way exceeded everyone's expectations. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sean, I think maybe you were about to say this, but we heard this about the Star Wars pages. So apparently, there's one collector who somehow got his hand on like almost all of the pages. Like he's been hoarding them for like 20 years, and like this is like one of the few pages out there that he doesn't have. So I'm guessing he's probably going to overpay to make sure that he gets that in his collection.
I know exactly who that collector is. And yeah, that he's on a mission to like bring it
put the whole book together.
Yeah. No, I think, and that's something I've been really into. I actually, I think after collecting NFTs had numbed me from like the actual cost of collectibles, I started whaling into these like full issues. So a lot of times when I love like a full issue on a modern book, I would try to acquire the whole book. So I've done a lot of that as well. But yeah, I'm as much as I am in the publishing business now, I'm also a really big collector. Like I love this stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of publishing, I would love to hear about how you guys are kind of turning the comic publishing model upside down with 24/7 Comics.
Yeah, so it was really organic. So I work in film and TV, so we produce, we adapt IP for other media types, and what happened there was one of the things we always wanted to do was option comic books to turn into film and TV, and then I couldn't find any good ones. I think a lot of the ones that you and I have all heard of, they're gone. I mean, obviously the studios get first dibs. Yep. They don't offer the best deal, but because they are the studio, the perception is that they're gonna do something big with it, right? But often, sometimes things get shelved. You guys heard all the horror stories, right? And so a friend of mine was asking me like, what are you guys doing? And I said, I really want to do good and actually bring this stuff to the screen. And he said, well, a lot of the good stuff's gone already, but have you ever thought about backing creators to create new IP? And I was like, no, actually, I haven't. And he's like, why don't you ask some of these guys if they have stories they want to tell and see if you could back them? And so I did. So the first person we talked to was Justin Jordan. He wrote on Luther Strode. He had a run on Green Lantern, on Shadow Man. He writes a lot of the Call of Duty comics. And he said, yeah, not only do I have stories that I would love to work with you on, I also feel like you guys should revisit your business model on what comics look like, because it hasn't changed for 50 years. And so the way he kind of broke things down for me was there's only like 2 or 3 worlds you go to. I think the one world we all know is the Marvel and DC's, which is like the big 2. So you're told what to write, you're told how what the deadlines are, and you're work for hire. They pretty much own everything, which is fine, because honestly, I think the prestige of drawing a Spider-Man, if I ever had a chance to do that, I would do that too, right? I think that's one end. The other end is Image Comics and the creator-owned comic space. A lot of times, I think if you already have the prestige and the following, it's great to go down that route, because you're going to be able to keep everything, you own everything, right? But for the most part, a lot of folks who actually don't have that same level of following, they actually have to spend a lot of their own time and resources investing in the comic, and then they put it out, and then often they don't sell enough to break even. And when that happens, they've just invested a lot of time and effort into a big project that then traction. So we basically create this partnership publishing, we call, where we're offering the best of both worlds for our creators, where we actually pay them comparable to Marvel DC rates, at some cases even more generous, and then they participate in the life of the IP. No matter what we do in film, TV, t-shirts, toys, whatever, right? And so that's kind of the structure we started with. And then a lot of it has to do with then building with the community. We also want to create collectibles that offer true ownership. I think there's also within the World Web 3 2 camps, right? There's a centralized world where it's like a very safe ecosystem that you exist in. Your collectibles live in there. You're working with coins and rubies and gold, and it's a whole ecosystem of its own, which is actually very safe and protected. And most of the known licensed IP exists in that way. And there's a wild west of this, decentralized true ownership world, right? We kind of lean towards the centralized world, because I'm a fan of just providing our collectors with true ownership. But I think what we want to do is try to slowly bring those 2 worlds together. Have we figured it out yet? Not really. I don't know if anyone has. But I love that, Comics and Crypto podcast is kind of like the North Star, where we could be open that we're of both worlds, but somehow there is some integration between the 2 worlds that makes sense for the community that subscribe to what we're doing.
Totally. I love that you're moving in that direction, just because I think it's so important to give users an option, because some people do want to have full custody of their assets, and they want to have full control and take on that risk of, potentially having your assets stolen if you get scammed or hacked, or losing your recovery phrase. But also some users just want to use an email login and access their stuff that way. So I love that you guys are moving in that direction. I think that's really, really smart.
Yeah, Spencer and I are split there. I'm more the centralized side, and he's definitely more the decentralized side.
Yeah, but I've been in Web3 since 2017, so I just
yeah. I still barely know how to use my MetaMask wallet. I'm like, Spencer.
I get calls all the time. It's like, hey Sean, buy this coin. He's like, how do I do that? It's like, Sean, I've shown you so many times. Come on, bud.
Yeah, no, I literally just got off the call with another of my partners on the same topic where a lot of folks are trying to do both, but my advice is it's too early right now. I feel like the way of thinking is just very far apart. So until that happens, you kind of have to keep the two audiences apart at risk of, because if you try to bring it together too soon, you're going to risk losing one side over the other. And I think for us, we are a bit kind of multifaceted right now when it comes to 24/7, and that's intentional. And so even for us now, one of the philosophies I don't think a lot of people agree with is, to me, is we're gonna have releases of comic books, but over time our comics will be free. Because I do feel like, as much as I don't know what you guys' collecting habits like, but I do buy comics. I do try. I mean, during pandemic, I was trying to go to comic shop as much as I can because it's a place I could go and just like shop, put on my mask, and like buy stuff, right? Like do something with my money and like kind of interact with people, but not really. And so I built that habit up. But what I found myself doing was, and you know what? Like no one admits this, but I'll just be very honest. I would buy my stack of comics, and the reason I go to my local comic book shop is because they bag and board everything, and I get to pick the best condition. But I don't want to take it out of the bag and board. And so what I do then is I put it next to me on the computer, and I would search the bootleg version. And I'll read it on my computer.
And then read online.
Exactly. And so I don't think I'm the only one that does that. I truly believe that's actually the behavior. And so at 24/7, we truly embrace that. And so even if you go to our reader now, we already have comic book previews. We have free comics, because I do feel like free comics is just step one. But the idea is to invite folks into this ecosystem of collectibles. Because I do feel like when you're a fan of a comic, if you're truly putting out good content, you will find community members that want to support you in other ways. I don't feel like we need to sell the comic books. I feel like the comic books in its collectible physical form, yes, we will sell that and make that available. But we also will have digital collectibles in different forms. We also have the digital art in different forms. Yeah. And so that's kind of the ecosystem that we're building here.
I love that.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're giving something away for free, I mean, then there's so many things because of the true ownership aspect of NFTs, and you're able to then build utility on top of these things and create new experiences to get people involved in new ways that you potentially could monetize them in the future, but get them in the door using the free NFTs and really just letting them read the comics for free.
Yeah, in fact, we haven't even dropped our PFP collection yet, because I don't know where that whole world's going, and I feel like everyone who has a PFP already found their tribe, right?
I know, it's so tough. Like I have my clone. I feel like I can't move on to something different. I've had it for it's like 2 years now. I've had a clone as my PFP, and I recently switched my clone up. But still, it's like I feel like I'm part of that ecosystem. You probably feel the same way with the Zuki.
100%.
You get so like tied to your avatar. It's so hard to to give it up.
Yeah, and like it's so funny because like I was getting kind of lectured by some folks who are part of our community saying, "Oh man, Carl, you're like you should be rocking your own thing and like release your PFP soon. Why are you rocking a Zuki?" I was like, dude, because I'm just a Zuki. Like I just that's my first love. Like I can't change that. So I basically met them in the middle. And I changed my Azuki PFP to an elemental that's reading 24/7 comic book. And I think that's kind of my jam now, because
I think that's a great way to balance it.
Yeah, my inner child, but I'm still Azuki, because that's like my core Web3 community. But yeah, I think right now it's really embracing what's out there and tinkering. I think for us, like our comic NFTs are going to be redeemable. It's just a matter of when. So what we want to do is like build up our library. So if you haven't been to our OpenSea page yet, this is 24/7 comics collection. We're gonna continue releasing 1155s as comics that people can buy. And one day we're gonna announce that everything's redeemable. And that day, hopefully, will be when people will actually see the value of the ecosystem we're creating. But yeah, I think we're a few books out before we start making everything redeemable. But at the same time, we want to make sure that were giving value to the community. So like if you went to San Diego Comic-Con, you would have gotten a limited edition Genesis #1 ash can. And a lot of folks made fun of me for doing this, but I printed the whole book. It wasn't just like a preview.
Yeah.
Me, I hated just reading a preview. And I think if we have confidence in our content, it's okay to give folks the whole book. And what's been really fun about the process that we've adopted from Web3 is we had actually some good feedback from people reading the Ashcan. And now we're adding a few pages and we're editing out a few pages because we want to make the story better. And so imagine like by the time we come out with the comic, this Ashcan is going to be a whole different story than what you see in the comic. And we want to implement this iterative process. And I think it's working because we're actually getting really good feedback. And I just spoke to like a pre-OG in the comic book space who read our comic, and now he wants to get involved after seeing what we're doing with this Ashcan because he actually saw, wow, there's a lot of potential here. I could help you guys make this better. And I think that's how I want to grow this company.
That's incredible, man. So you mentioned basically a couple different NFTs in your ecosystem. So you use some collectibles, you use some comics. You also have the 24/7 studio badge. And then the biplane Bobo NFTs. I was wondering if you could kind of just like give us an overview of kind of how all the different NFTs fit together in the ecosystem. And then I guess also like if somebody wants to get involved with 24/7, which of those NFTs is kind of their best entrance, or if an NFT isn't their best entrance, what is their best way to get involved?
Sure. So first of all, like kind of rewinding to like the 24/7 origin story. About 3 years ago, we started this comic company. We started backing creators. And we really was just going to back one creator, just Justin Jordan. But then we had so much fun in the process that we ended up backing like 6 creators up till last year. And then now we actually have 10 original IP. And then what happened was last June, there was a lot of interest in the company. So we ended up raising a seed round. And we were heavily oversubscribed, a lot of interest. And because we raised that seed round, we felt a bit of a pressure to go to market with something. And last summer was this huge free mint meta. And so we start ideating on like, what would a free mint look like? And one of the things I've always wanted to do is really nurture this idea of character ownership within the ecosystem. And the book we were working on was Genesis. And Genesis is about this guy, Lucas Zhang, who basically has this technology that transfers human consciousness into androids. And he basically works for the American military and also works for the American theme park world. And so obviously the technology is used very differently. Where in the military, they're transferring, humans like you and I who wants to go fight wars or gamers into these soldiers to fight wars. On the other end, they're in theme parks and there's retirees who wants to do something in their lives. So they get transferred into these gorillas and like sexy bots to like entertain guests, right? And so we thought, oh man, what if there was this mascot, which would be our ultimate character, which is Bobo from the world of Genesis. And we basically fragmentized Bobo and we gave it to the community as a show of good faith, saying we do believe in decentralization. And so we did. We put 5,000 Bobo fragments out there and it minted out very quickly and kind of became a thing. And folks started trading it. And it was a experiment to see what the centralized ownership of one character would look like. So we have some plans for Bobo once Genesis, the main collection mints. But we haven't revealed much of that yet. The second thing we released was the 24/7 studio badge. Now this was a invite only pass that would basically invite folks into a journey with the BTS at the inside look of what 24/7 is like. So you guys are also a badge holder, right? Within the space, so you come into this chat, private chat, and on top of that, we've been hosting, different dinners and stuff at different cons. And so you guys came to the LA Comic-Con version of that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the idea,
That's super fun.
Yeah, is
awesome.
Is I think a lot of folks within the studio badge holder DNA are kind of like you and I, where we believe in two worlds, we straddle in both worlds. We understand kind of where things are at right now, but we're all walking towards that, right? And so what's been really fun is a lot of the folks from the studio badge holder group are considered founding members, and we run a lot of decisions by the group. We run a lot of surveys by the group. We even have like a Twitter chat with the group just to like really talk about where we're going and get directives. So in a way, it's almost like our advisory board and core community that can help be the guiding light towards that. And obviously, the 24/7 has a higher buy-in than most of the NFTs out there, so it's very limited to like 247 units. And we're not in any hurry to like mint it out per se. This is more of a long-term group that we want to grow with and to continue building with 24/7 Comics. Now then we have this collection of the comics that's coming out, which is the 24/7 Comics collection, which is an umbrella collection, which will basically include our individual comics and our redeemable tokens. And some tokens are redeemable, like we had POAPs for both the Azuki Las Vegas weekend as well as San Diego Comic-Con. Those will really just exist on the chain. But then we also then have mints that are coming out, like the Applied Primate Origin, which is our second crossover, which we're super excited about. That's minting in a couple weeks. That will come out in a few different ways as well, because we learned a lot from the last Age of Valor mint, which is based on the Azuki IP.
That's awesome. Yeah, a few weeks ago we got a chance to hang out at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Could you tell our audience a little bit about what you guys were doing there and what kind of response you had about the project?
Yeah, no. So we had a few days there. So another kind of example of how Studio Badge founding members collaborate. DCD, Doug Dreyer, who is one of our Studio Badge holders, he has a big booth, like a 20 by 20 DCD collects booth, and we did a collaboration with them. And kind of exchange for that collaboration, he gave us some booth space. So we had a booth for Sean Chen for about 5 hours a day.
He's great, really talented artist, incredible.
So Sean, in case people don't know who he is, he had one of the longest runs on Iron Man, but before that, he was one of the OG Valiant Comics, Ryan the Future Force artists. I think his comics sold almost 1 million copies. His Iron Mans have sold millions of copies. Then he got on Wolverine after that. Then he took about 10 years break from comics and went to advertising. But even when he was at advertising, he did a ton of the Marvel toy design. So there's all these like art that's of him, his designs of all the Marvel toys. And then he came back and he started working on Batman Beyond and Iron Fist. But then him and I met in 2017 and have always talked about collaborating in some capacity. And at first, we were actually working in the advertising side, where I would do pitches to Amazon, Marvels of the world for a lot of my events, and who would be my storyboard artist or like design artist. And then over time, we just built this working relationship where when pandemic came around, we had a little bit more time to start working on stories together. And that's basically where Genesis came from, and where we decided to print these ash cans and for him to make his first appearance back at Comic-Con after over a decade. And he did a bunch of meet and greets. He did a commission list that sold out right away. And it's amazing because we were able to just engage audiences that, some knew him, some didn't, but the ones that didn't was very familiar with his work. And we asked them to come and check out his ash can, and he got to interact with them and sign their books. And on the last day, we actually had Mickey Finnegan, Swaggle
I love Mickey. Yep.
Yeah,
Make sure to follow Mickey's content, Swaggle House. Yeah, amazing creator. He's an amazing guy.
He's actually our creative director at 24/7 Comics. So a lot of the trailers that come out, he's the guy that directs them all. And so we had him, promote his book. And so it was really fun. I think for us, it was really, kind of similar objective as a lot of the other Web3 companies there, is really to onboard a new audience. And I think fandom is going to be where it's at. So that's why Comic Cons are a big initiative and big priority for us. Because I do feel like there's a marketplace. I think as much as comic book shops are having a rough time, I think Comic Cons are not. I think everyone who was at San Diego Comic-Con this year because of the writer strike and the SAG strike, man, from what I heard, people sold 30 to 50% more than usual. And
really?
That's a big celebration.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it shows that the economy is alive and well. It's just the context of where, this fandom is being propagated and where these sales are happening.
Yeah, and I also want to say thanks for joining our giveaway. We did a giveaway at Comic-Con. We had 22 different brands collaborating and over $7,500 in prizes. It was really awesome. We connected with all the winners. We're going to be announcing that soon. But one of the prizes was actually an original artwork from Sean. Yeah, which is super, super cool. So congrats to that winner who won that piece. Yeah,
we're very excited. We love giveaways. Our belief is you have to give before you take. So if we want to build a community, we want to do our best to give. So even before this call today, and actually every day this week, we had a good amount of the ash can edition left over from San Diego Comic-Con. So I've been visiting comic book shops and just having conversations with them.
Awesome.
We offer them anywhere from 20, 30 comics. ash cans to put in their pull boxes or give to their customers. And one thing we just ask is that they communicate, our brand story. They communicate that they give it to customers that would actually read it, and then we ask them for their feedback. And every comic book shop has been so appreciative because they said that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. Like, they don't get a lot of free gifts from publishers anymore. And there's always something attached. There's always such a business. And for me, I realized, like, for us to, engage the community, we have to also curate a community that has true interest in supporting this next generation of artists. And I want to give every creator on our team a fair chance. What I hear is often books are just being put on the shelves with no marketing. I really want to, get in to understand how these store owners are thinking and even how to help them be successful in this kind of new world that we're creating.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to dive deeper into your exciting announcement recently about collaborating with Applied Primate. Super cool. So what are your plans for that partnership?
A lot. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but you guys have heard.
We can leak some info. Don't worry. Nobody's watching.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
First of all, PTM and Mistaken President, aka Jeff Poison, that guy is a veteran. I mean, he came from Image Comics, Penguin Random House, DC, and we were lucky enough to have him join us as one of our advisors at 24/7 Comics. And that's awesome. When he jumped on full time at Applied Primate, it only made sense for us to do something together. So back, I think we were at New York Comic Con. We had a chance to connect with PTM. And when we talked, one of the things that they've always wanted to do was a comic of some form. And I think Jeff had brought up with PTM that, they're going to do it. Why don't we do it with a company that's fully focused on, making comics? And so we started those conversations then. And then, 6 months later, now we're about to drop number 1. And this comic is really special because, it's the first time where we're able to, feature these mega mutants, which are highly sought after in the world of, the world of BAYC and Yuga Labs. Number 2, we're part of a program called Made by Apes, which is a kind of licensed program that highlighting different projects that are using ape properties. And I think we have the greatest license number. I think it's 42069. The best license number of all of them. And so that's the best. And so lastly, we get to showcase this thesis that we want to be a comic book company. 24/7 has always been a IP agnostic company. And so we have our original IP. Then we also want to do crossover IP. So the first crossover IP was with Azuki. This next one now is featuring, Yuga Labs IP. And so as an ongoing basis, we're going to be featuring a bunch of other IP in Web3 space, because what we want to do is bring real talent and real stories that's authentic to the comic book space, but tell stories that are also authentic to the Web3 space. And I think that's really hard to do, because you do feel like there are a ton of Web3 comic book projects and properties out there. But I feel like when I look into who's writing them, who's working on them, I think they do a great job of telling a story from a Web3 perspective, and the lore, the keywords, the things that the community understands. But I don't know if these comics are able to hit comic book shelves and would be embraced by the comic book audience. Our goal is to be able to allow these stories to live in both worlds. And so we work very closely with the projects. And right now we're going to start blue chip projects, because I think, unfortunately, with the state of Web3, the blue chip projects are the ones that steer us community around. On the other end, we also want to be able to tell brand new stories from creators that understands what the audience wants, right? And wants to expand their audience into Web3. So we've been a guiding light into what matters in this space as well. And so, I think this will be our number 2 crossover title, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then you guys see
congrats, that's amazing.
Through our Twitter, so
and the art with the super mutants just makes such good comic art too. I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
In fact, we kind of tested the art. Our artist is Vince Tunico, and he's a veteran artist. He's worked on a ton of projects. But he's the creator of Loaf, which is the original IP from 24/7 Comics. And we did a little bit of a test. We actually worked with Applied Primate to do a poster a few months back, which is like all the Mega Mutants that versus each other, and you have to pick a side, and that was very well received. Applied Primates also own, I think, 6 out of the 8 Mega Mutants.
Wow.
So it's pretty epic, and so because and they're the most coveted mutants, and because of that, like this will be the first comic featuring these mutants. And then on the other end, our writer is Brian Pucciletto, or Brian Bush. He had worked on Flash. He had worked on Detective Comics, but the biggest announcement coming out of San Diego Comic-Con was his title, Justice League versus Godzilla versus King Kong. And that's going to be a big IP coming out of DC.
Whoa. That's quite a mix of IPs.
Oh, freaking cool, right? And so we're basically dropping this just a tad before that IP comes out. And so it's going to be really fun. I think we've been experimenting, obviously. I think for Applied Primate Origin, we used 2 veterans from the comic book space. With the Age of Valor, we actually used a Azuki commission artist who's never worked on a comic before, and we had brought in Curtis Cloud, who basically has only done like Kickstarter comics, more community driven. So we're trying different formulas to see what works. So we're pretty excited to present this upcoming book.
Nice. You guys released some preview stuff on your website, right?
We did. We released the Ash Can because it's going to be an iteration of what Genesis will be. So it'll be a form of what the number 1 would look and feel like. But like I said, the number 1 will be colored. It'll probably be lettered a little differently. We're gonna have some new art in there. We also have a preview of Applied Primate Origin for like about 7-8 pages. And our goal, if you sign up for a newsletter, is to offer a preview every few weeks to have a new book that you can read, get some feedback, and hopefully take the time for you guys to fill out the feedback form as well, because we want this to be a collaboration between us and the community.
Awesome. Well, I got the link right here, so definitely make sure. Website. Oh, and you're Sean's showing it right now. Yeah, so definitely make sure you check out 24/7. Great website, by the way. Like really well designed.
Jump to the comics. The comics is, we're so proud of this reader because we've had a few iterations, but we finally landed as to like where we want to be. So when you go to the reader, you could actually, click up and down with a DPS, because a lot of times for me, I miss that DPS feel. So there's an up and down arrow. So click down on that arrow next to the cover page.
Next to the cover page, yeah.
Just below that.
Below that, yeah. And to the right.
And to the right.
The down arrow to the right.
Yeah,
there you go.
I did it.
But if you click on the little like mobile up above the page, so scroll up, next to the up and down arrow,
the little phone button,
boom, and then it'll make it full page, and you could go on your mobile or go on your iPad.
Nice, and that's just clean. And then it's just scrollable.
Super fun, yeah, and then
super clean.
Yeah, so our whole goal is really to make this a very immersive reading experience, and then over time, if you want to sign in, you can sign in with Google, and then be able to check out different things that are in Web3 as well if you want to. So I think
that's awesome.
That's kind of our goal of where we're going with this. We haven't really introduced the digital collectible aspect of it yet, unless you want to look for it, because we want this to be welcoming to everyday Web3 to just be able to read some comics and give us feedback.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been loving the previews. I still haven't gotten a chance to actually go in and read the full thing. I kind of just did like a cursory look just to see the art, which was incredibly impressive. But yeah, at some point I want to give the story a read, because I've given Genesis a read, and the story is just like so engaging, and I cannot wait to continue to read where that story goes. That world is very exciting. It's very like Westworld-esque.
It
is like one of my favorite TV shows. So
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad. Because Sean Chen's collaborator on that is an actor by the name of Daniel Wu, and Daniel was actually on the last season of Westworld, and he also he has his own show called Into the Badlands on AMC, and so Lucas Zhang, who is the lead character of Genesis, is actually his likeness is based on Daniel Wu, so it's been a really
cool. Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. All right. Well, I mean, it's been so fun talking to you. Is there anything that we haven't covered today, just in terms of, some of the upcoming things that you've planned for 24/7 that you'd like to share?
Yeah, a couple things. One is definitely sign up for our newsletter if you get a chance. The link is on our Instagram, on our Twitter. So just go to 24/7 Comics HQ to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out every Wednesday on Comic Book Day. So it's like, top of mind. And then second is we're gonna have a Kickstarter coming up for Genesis. So it's very different for like a Web3 project to do Kickstarters, but I think there's enough audience in both worlds to make it work. So we're gonna time it, but we're gonna see where the Web3 audience is, by September time around. But regardless of the recovery of NFTs or not, like we're gonna launch a Kickstarter just to like kick that off. So if you get a chance, definitely pay attention to that. We'll have that in our newsletter. But yeah, super excited to just showcase that right after our Applied Primate launch and following Genesis. We're also going to introduce Loaf, and so that's going to be our next Ashcan that will probably be at New York Comic Con. So super excited to like showcase Loaf as well as an ultra violent, Spawn meets Berserk type manga style book, revenge story. And that's awesome. That's Vince Nico's own creation. He co-wrote with Nick Lugic, who's his friend, childhood friend, and then the art is just violent. It's all black and white except the blood is red.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. Yeah, that'll definitely show off the violence, that's for sure. Well, I put in the link here. It's gonna have to be a copy paste situation, but if you're on the YouTube, definitely make sure that you go there or go directly to the 24/7 Comics Twitter page, and you'll be able to sign up for the newsletter there.
Awesome. And make sure to follow them on their socials at 24/7 Comics HQ on both Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
Cool.
Carl, you're so awesome. You're so awesome.
Yeah, awesome. We're doing this together. We're on the
yeah, the first minute.
Let's bring these worlds together,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So excited to keep collaborating, man. Let's do this again soon.
Same. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Spencer.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Signing off.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys.